Here are the three main kinds of investors in relating to risk. This is a super simplified model for finance. For 30, obviously in real life, there are tons more variables, but this is just an easy breakdown. The three main kinds of investors in relating to risk are risk-averse investors, risk-neutral investors, and risk-seeking investors. The first one that we'll talk about is risk-averse investors. Risk-averse investors take both risk and return into account. They will only invest in a fair or over fair game. And what those two things mean is, let's just say you have risk on this side and return on this side. Either there needs to be an equal sign in the middle, so the same amount of risk you take, the same amount of reward you would get, or the return needs to be greater than the risk. So the risk-averse investors will only invest if return is greater than or equal to the risk. Risk-neutral investors, it's interesting. They, hence the word, are neutral to risk. So they only take return into account. Let's just say there's a possibility of gaining $500. In this theory, a risk-neutral investor wouldn't consider whether the risk was $100 or $5,000. They would just see that $500 and take that risk because they only take return into account. The risk-seeking investors, my teacher has a lot of funny things to say about that. He's like, they're not investors, they're just gamblers. Risk-seeking investors in this theory take on more risk than return, so they play an unfair game for the thrill of it, for the adrenaline. Obviously in real life, this is more complicated. Some people take on more risk to get higher return. But if you were looking at like the efficient frontier in that graph, the risk-neutral investors would go past the efficient frontier and take on more risk than potential return. So they would be playing an unfair game. And so they are seeking that for the thrill, hence why they're gamblers and not investors. Those are the three main kinds of investors and how they relate to risk. Hope this helps.